we are down to just 2 teams left in New Zealand's NPC. The last team to qualify for that final qualification tournament for Rugby World Cup 2027 has been determined. And out of the URC Premiership and Top 14, only 2 teams remain undefeated. Hello and welcome to the Rugby Roundup with Big Mike, here by Big Mike Rugby. It is October 22nd, 2025. I'm Big Mike, again at Big Mike Rugby. Now let's get into it, shall we? Also on this week's episode, we look forward to this upcoming weekend, where test matches are starting up again. And of course, we have that NPC Grand Final in New Zealand. But enough of all of that. Let's get to the roundup. And we're going to start with men's rugby, in particular, international men's footy. Let's start with the big one. It was Brazil taking on Paraguay in Brazil. Previous week, Paraguay got the big upset with that great second half, that one being 39-19, meaning that Brazil needed to win this one by 21 points or more to make it through that final qualification tournament. This match had 7 yellow cards and a red card. How good is that? Would have been an absolute masterpiece to watch. I didn't get to watch it, but I did have a quick squiz at those highlights. At halftime, it was 17-all. Again, very close at halftime before one certain team ran away with it. This one was 28-24 to Paraguay with 10 minutes remaining. Brazil needed a huge finish to this one. Unfortunately, they couldn't do it. Paraguay got another kick. And they ended up winning this one 31-24, winning by 27 points on aggregate. That means Paraguay, as South America 3, the third place team, have qualified for that final qualification tournament with Europe 5, Belgium, the team that came 6th in the Pacific Nations Cup, who also lost to South America 2, and that team is Samoa, and Africa 2, Namibia, who lost to Zimbabwe in their qualification game. This tournament kicks off in the second weekend of November. These 4 teams quite simply are playing each other once each. It will be taking place in the rugby town of Dubai. Other games from last weekend, we saw Australia A absolutely demolish Japan 15. This one was 71 points to 7. Lots of people online are ripping into Eddie Jones and Japan, but please remember this wasn't their top squad. It's the same as the All Blacks 15. Calm down, everyone. It's not the All Blacks. You know what I'm saying? Also, bit of South American rugby action happening in Colombia, as Colombia defeated Peru 38 points to 24. These results in rugby, well, Paraguay have moved up to the 31st spot in the World Rugby Rankings. Brazil sit now in 32nd. These 2 teams started these 2 games at 38th and 28th respectively. Now let's get to some club rugby action, starting with the United Rugby Championship. It was round 4. We started off with a huge demolition job by Edinburgh, taking out Benetton 43 points to 0. Cardiff took down the Dragons 24-17 in the Wales battle. This one could have ended up way worse before the Dragons scored 10 points in their final 10 minutes. Heartbreak for Connacht with a missed conversion after a Mac Hansen try, meaning the Bulls defeated Connacht 28 points to 27. Lions took down Scarlets 29-18. That's the Lions' first win of the season. Ulster away from home against the red-hot Springbok Riddled Sharks. This one was 34-26 to Ulster. In one of my big 3 games, we had Munster away from home taking it to Leinster. This one was 31-14. Leinster not looking like the same side we have been used to the last few seasons. Munster looking like that dominant squad that we knew about a decade or two ago. Stormers undefeated, 31-13 over Zebre. In our final game of the weekend, Ospreys couldn't get it done against Glasgow. That one 42 points to 17. Top of the table, we have the undefeated Stormers in Munster, followed by 3 wins from 4. We're looking at Glasgow, Cardiff, Ulster, who are actually 3 wins from 3. They're undefeated too. Oh crap, I didn't realise. Of course I didn't realise they had that game. They're actually maximum points from their 3 games. How about that? They had that game postponed earlier due to the storm. We've also got the Bulls for 3 wins from 4. Rounding out our top 8, we've got the Italian crew, Benetton and Zebre. Teams without a victory so far. Somehow the Sharks, even though they look really strong, Dragons and Scarlets. Top 14 action now. Bayonne took it to Clermont in round 7. This one was 44 points to 17. Castres took it to Stade Francais Paris, 29-24. Montpellier, huge victory over Lyon, 35-13. Could Montauban get their first victory of the season? No, they lost to La Rochelle 54 points to 19. Bordeaux looking strong again, 27-12 over Perpignan. Game of the weekend, absolutely this one, as Pau defeated Toulouse, 30 points to 26. Last minute heroics in that one. Final game of the weekend, Toulon over Toulon over Racing, 92, 45 points to 21. After 7 weeks, Pau and Bayonne sit on top of the table with 5 from 7, followed by Toulouse, Stade Francais, Toulon and Castres. Bordeaux just outside their top 6. Bottom of the table, no wins from 7, Montauban and Perpignan. Now I know you're all wondering what happened in D2 last weekend. Well, it was round 7. Van Bet Oyonnax, 36-17. Biarritz, 1-point victory, 21-20 over Soyo Angolemi. Valence Romans, 37-29 over Béziers. Provence, Bet Nevers, 39-33. Aurillac, Bet Dax, 36-33. Some absolute close games in this one. Stade Montois took down Grenoble, 32 points to 18. Colomiers, 2-point victors over Carcassonne, 15-13. And a big victory at the end of the weekend, as again took down Brive, 41-10. Colomiers sit on top of the table, closely followed by my beloved Vannes. Again, Valence Romans, Aurillac and Nevers. Bottom of the table, we've got the Daxters, who even if they weren't deducted those 5 points before the season started for non-compliance with regulation, would still be in last spot. Round 4 in the Prem, Bristol took down Gloucester 49 points to 34. The Saints got up over Newcastle 36-19. Leicester, oh my goodness, did you see this one? They took down Bath right at the end. Beautiful penalty kick got them the victory, 22-20. Exeter defeated Harlequins, who were looking red hot. This one was 38-0, but it wasn't the biggest win of the weekend. That one went to Saracens, who took down the Salé Sharks. Well, the score in this one was 65-14. A teenager scored 5 tries. That's all you need to know about this game. Jumping to the most beautiful part of the world, talking about New Zealand's National Provincial Championship. Semi-finals. Second place Otago took it to the third place Bay of Plenty, winning 41-17. Canterbury, who finished on top, defeated Hawke's Bay 43 points to 19. Meaning that these 2 teams are going to be in the final this weekend. Canterbury hosting Otago. It was the end of the Heartland Championship, the next tier down in New Zealand rugby. The Lahore final, North Otago bet Horowhenua Kapiti 64 points to 47 in what I imagine would have been a really fun game to watch live. And in the Meads final, Mid Canterbury did it. They stayed on top. Somehow, right at the end, as they bet Thames Valley 21 points to 18. Back up to Europe as we've got round 2 of the Rugby Europe Super Cup. The Iberians took it to Delta in Amsterdam. This one was 50 points to 17. Lusitanos stay undefeated 41-17 over the Brussels Devils. And guess who got their first ever victory? Away from home, the Bohemian Warriors of the Czech Republic took it to the Romanian Wolves and won 39 points to 24. After 2 weeks, we've got 2 undefeated teams, Iberians and Lusitanos, and 2 teams without a victory, Romanian Wolves and the Brussels Devils. And that is us for last weekend. Have I already said that? Who knows? My brain's in a bit of overdrive because today it was 36 degrees Celsius where I'm from, and I'm used to it being about half of that. Now let's talk a little bit about Big Mike here at Big Mike Rugby. If you want to talk to me, if you want me to talk about any teams, any games, any competitions, best way to do this is to find me probably on the Insta. We are at Big Mike Rugby. Or you can comment on anything, anywhere the podcast is potted. And I'll try my best to respond. I'll try my best to talk about what you're saying. I'll try my best to do what you ask. Big Mike Rugby. Every now and then I do notice I'm slipping back into the Big Mike Sports, which is still technically around, even though we're a bit more tighter on what we talk about now. There are rumblings in the background that a merchandise store is on its way, team. Might be selling some Big Mike Rugby bum bags. Yeah. Anyway, let's look at the news from the last week. Nothing too major. Every now and then we get rumblings about this Rugby 360, but who really cares at this point until we've got something set in the stones? But we do have a lot of teams naming their international squads for the November window. Look at the South African team, they're going with youth. They're looking towards the next World Cup. Names like Willie LaRue and Faf de Klerk have not made it. Some of these older names are not going touring in November. My favourite little tidbit that I spotted that not many people are talking about is the Flying Fijians naming former All Black and Waikato chief Peter Gus Sowakula. Now let's look at this week in rugby. We've got a couple of international games coming up. We have Hong Kong, China hosting the Japan 15. Remembering that Hong Kong, China has qualified for the World Cup. And in the big international game of the weekend, we have the Cherry Blossoms of Japan hosting the Wallabies of Australia. As of recording, neither of these teams have named their starting lineup. The Wallabies did lose both of those final games. That was my chair, not anything else. They did lose both of their final games to the All Blacks this year, but they did get a victory over the Lions. They've beaten Fiji, they've beaten Argentina, they've beaten South Africa. Now they're going to go to Japan and hopefully do the same. Japan are coming out of their second place finish in the Pacific Nations Cup after their win and their loss against Wales in the July internationals. Let's look at round 5 in the United Rugby Championship. Glasgow are hosting the Bulls. The Lions host Ulster. Sharks hosting Scarlets. Battle of 2 teams without wins. Leinster hoping to get a good win after another loss. This time they're going to be taking on Zebre. Benetton host the Red Hot Stormers. The Dragons and Ospreys go head-to-head in Wales. Can Munster stay undefeated when they take on Connacht? And finally, it is Cardiff versus Edinburgh, the battle of the capital cities. In round 8 of the top 14, Lyon host La Rochelle. Clermont host Castries. Racing 92 will be hoping to stop Pau. Stade Francais Paris will be looking for another victory against Montpellier. The 2 teams without losses of playing each other team, it is Montauban versus Perpignan. Bordeaux, who are just sitting outside of that top 6, are taking on the Red Hot Bayonne, and it is the beautiful game, Toulouse-Toulon, the battle of the twos. Round 8, D2, Valence Romans again, Brive, Sayo Angoulême, BRE versus Stade Montois, Grenoble versus Carcassonne, Oyonnax and Provence, Dax take on Béziers, Nevers play Aurillac, and Colomiers versus Vannes in a top of the table clash in D2. This week in the Premiership sees a top-of-the-table clash as Northampton hosts Saracens, Exeter take on Gloucester, Harlequins take on Newcastle, Bath take on Bristol, and Leicester take on the Sale Sharks. Can Newcastle or Gloucester get their first victory of the season? To the NPC now, we're going to talk all about this final. It is Canterbury taking on Otago, first versus second. Just like their Super Rugby final, it is the last time in Apollo Project Stadium for the Canterbury squad. In round 8, same stadium, same teams, Otago took it to Canterbury, giving them their first loss of the year and also stealing the Ranfurly Shield. That one was 38 points to 36. Can they make it 2 from 2? Otago haven't won an NPC championship since 1998. Canterbury haven't won the top prize since 2017, which seems shocking as the Crusaders have been absolutely demolishing Super Rugby. If we look back at that match from 2001, that grand final, at the time the two teams were coached by future All Blacks coach Steve Hansen, that would be Canterbury, and former All Blacks coach Laurie Mains. Between these two squads, there were over 20 past, present, or future All Blacks. This would have been the last game Richie McCaw played before debuting for the All Blacks. And in that 2001 final, Canterbury did win 30 points to 19. This weekend, the Rugby Europe Super Cup gives us Iberians versus the Romanian Wolves, Lusitanos taking on Delta, and the Bohemian Warriors versus the Brussels Devils. In women's club rugby, there is only one thing to talk about, and that is the return of the competition of all competitions. It is Premiership Women's Rugby. Now, last year's competition, or last season's competition, which ended in March, was completely dominated by Gloucester Hartpury, who did win their final 34 points to 19. Traditionally, Bristol have won the most competitions. This is a 9-team competition. Now this, more so than Super Rugby Opiki or Super Rugby Australia, this one is where all the superstars are going. You've got players that represent England, France, Ireland, Scotland, the USA, Canada, New Zealand, Australia, all playing in this competition for different teams. For example, the greatest player in the world in the last year, and Canadian, Sophie de Goody, she plays for Saracens. We do have some interesting transfers for 25-26, which I will steal from another website, don't tell anyone. Meg Jones, who was one of those Women's Player of the Year's nominees, and of course a World Cup champion. She's gone from the Leicester Tigers to the Trailfinders. Also on the Trailfinders, we've got Black Ferns, Alana Borland and Georgia Ponsonby. Speaking of Black Ferns, from Matatu in Super Rugby Opiki, Amy Rule, the beautiful prop with 31 Black Ferns caps, is going to play for the Exeter Chiefs. That front row will be 1 Kiwi, 1 American and 1 Canadian. Another World Cup winner, Holly Aitchison, Bristol Bears to the Sale Sharks. Also joined the Sale Sharks. Also joining the Sharks, Flight Lieutenant Amy Victoria Fiona Cocaine, English superstar Amy Cocaine, Irish player and Women's Six Nations Player of the Season, Alfie Wafer, goes from Leinster to the Harlequins. And Canadian superstar and lock Letitia Royer joins the competition as she goes to Saracens. Looking at the Gloucester Hartpury roster, they haven't made too many changes, but this is a dominant team from last season. With it being a 9-team comp, only 8 teams play every weekend. The bye this week goes to the Bristol Bears, home of Ilona Maher. Defending champions, Gloucester Hartpury take on Saracens. It's Harlequins hosting the Loughborough Lightning. The Trailfinders take on the Exeter Chiefs, and the Sale Sharks take on the Leicester Tigers. Now, before we go, let's talk about our Big Mike big three games of the weekend. If you've only got time to watch one, see one, follow one, whatever, maybe make sure it's one of these guys. My 3 games this weekend are as follows. We are going to start in Premiership Rugby as the Northampton Saints host Saracens. This is a top-of-the-table clash in the Premiership in the last weekend before the international window. Also, from the top 14, I love me a bottom-of-the-table clash, and we are going to have Perpignan take on Montauban. Imagine if this one finishes in a draw. Go the newbies, back on the top flight. Go Montauban. Maybe go Perpignan. I do like their uniforms. Final game of the big 3 for this weekend. We've got from the enjoyable heat stroke. Anyway, from the mighty enjoyable NPC, one of the greatest seasons we have had in a very long time. It is a South Island clash. It is Canterbury. It is Otago. Oh boy, I hope Otago take it. I don't hope the Highlanders are good, but I hope Otago take it. Anyway, those are our big 3 for this weekend, and that is us for the Rugby Roundup for another week. Oh boy, what a weekend we've got to look forward to. What a weekend we've just had. All the rugby, all the fun, all the times. Now, if there is a bit of a delay on things coming out next week, it is because I'm heading to Melbourne on the weekend for something we can't quite discuss, but I will if I win. Anyway, from all of us here at Big Mike Rugby, everyone here in my spare room, me, I hope you all have a beautiful week and you watch some beautiful rugby.